Lacey having troubles, Adrian Peterson out. You look at probably about 2/3 of the first-round picks so far have been basically busts. And then you start looking at the second round, you start looking at the Des Bryants, the late first, early second round. You look at maybe Andre Ellington, you look at Giovanni Bernard, and you look at guys, a lot of it, I would submit that probably the second rounders are playing better than the first rounders. And that's a reminder to everyone out there that in the draft, you do the best you can, but the team you're going to be left with is not necessarily the team you're going to end up with. In my work league last year that I won, I made over 50 pickups and drops and 7 trades. And I completely remade my team from start to finish. I've mentioned this before, J-Rock, on your show. So people have to realize if you drafted Calvin Johnson, there's no excuses, absolutely none. You got to just pick yourself up and think, what can I do to reposition myself so I can get enough wins so when Calvin Johnson gets healthy, I'll have him for the fantasy playoffs and I will have a stronger team as a result.
I'll tell you, you make me feel good about the fact that I'm at 20 transactions and counting so far halfway through the season. I'm at 19 acquisitions and a trade, baby, and I'm not even close to done yet. I'm reworking this thing every day, but that's the fun part of it, too, when you sit back and look at where it started to where it ends up to. All right, well, there's some matchups. There's a lot of guys that are not injured this week, going to be out there playing. Who do you like? What quarterbacks are really sticking out to you this week with some good matchups?
I like Tony Romo's matchup. As long as he's healthy enough, he should be fine. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick, I've mentioned him a couple of times. He's only been mediocre, unfortunately. But what Brian Hoyer did to the Steelers last week, I think and Ben Tate and everything. I think the Texans can certainly put up some points on the Steelers. And I think Fitzpatrick can be a part of that. I think I give Phillip Rivers maybe one more week. Keep this in mind. Phillip Rivers is in the last 4 weeks, his completion percentage is higher than the all-time single season record by Drew Brees. So people have to realize that guys like Phillip Rivers, I just read about it in Sports Illustrated. It came out last night about 8 guys whose stock are dropping. Phillip Rivers is one of them, but he has a great matchup. I would say playing in this matchup and then trade him as soon as you can. I would also encourage people not to get too caught up with Cam Newton. Going into Green Bay, it's going to be very different than what he did last week.
Yeah.
And I remain high on Joe Flacco. Maybe I'm speaking out of my butt on this because remaining high on Joe Flacco, that's not really fair. I was never high on Joe Flacco. But all week so far, I've been high on Joe Flacco, not because he had 5 touchdowns in 16.5 minutes last week. That was amazing. But it's not because of that. It's because he's playing the Falcons. And any team right now that's playing the Falcons, and people, your listeners, hopefully understand this. I'm sure a lot of them do. It's not just about picking up and starting certain players. It's about understanding which defenses are most exposed to the pass or to the run. In the same way that a few years ago, if you played fantasy baseball, you'd always start a pitcher facing the Nationals because you knew, or 2 years ago against the Mariners, because you knew you had a great chance of that pitcher tossing a shutout or 7 innings of 1-run ball. In the same way, if you're playing the Falcons or you're playing the Jaguars, even the Titans, that means you should think about starting that quarterback or starting running back.
Moving around the let's look at the running backs real quick because I mentioned it earlier. I would give this advice to anybody, but you tell me if you agree or not. According to me, sit Zach Stacy. I don't care where you drafted him in your draft. Sit him against Seattle tonight or this weekend. Excuse me.
That's right. I agree 100%. The Zach Stacy train is ending. He has to bowl. I'm doing a lot of sports analogies here. If you call bowling a sport, I'll give the benefit of the doubt. But I mentioned baseball before. He's got the 1 and the 10, and he's going to try to hit them both. Get the split. And I'm not sure that he can do it. Everything has to go his way for him to have a good rest of the season. And the fact is, the train's moving on without him. Zach Stacy's limitations are being exposed. I admit it. I drafted him in I think it was the 4th round this year in one of my drafts because there weren't a lot of running backs left, and I saw what he did at the second half of last year against decent and not so good competition. And I thought if he gets enough games against bad defenses, he should be able to get 100 yards and the occasional score. And he's just been having a lot of trouble. So Trey Mason is now the guy that some people are targeting. it's too early to know who between him and Cunningham, and even a little bit of Zach Stacy thrown in there might win the day. But the reality is it's not going to be Zach Stacy with 20 carries anytime this season.
And I'll tell you what, Cleveland fans, if you're listening, my last suggestion here, and then I'll ask you if there's anybody we missed. If you got the Browns defense, or if it's probably available in most leagues, this is the week that they're going to pay off for you. I'm just saying. Jacksonville, remember, they're on that list of, if you see them on the versus column, put somebody in your lineup that's got them there. Jacksonville's definitely one of those teams. We talked about everybody, injuries, all of that. Who maybe that we missed do you have circled as these are guys that are going to have a big week, especially maybe that people may not be looking at? With Buffalo, I think Watkins has a nice rebound. Sammy Watkins, the rookie, he's been so erratic and really not very good. And I think against that Vikings D, I think Watkins has an opportunity to step up and be the guy that people hope for. I'm always looking for to figure out the rhythms of players and offenses when players don't get the ball and don't get a lot of attention, and then rebounding and getting that attention and kind of the rhythm of the players. Sometimes there is a rhythm to it, especially with bigger time players who don't get attention, and then they want the ball because look at Deshaun Jackson, the way he's broken out the last couple of weeks. Right.
He was just a bear hibernating on that offense. It was only a matter of time before he broke out. They paid a lot of money to get him. They needed to show that it was worth it. So that was the rhythm of Deshaun Jackson. At a certain point, he's a huge buy low guy. He's a huge start because he's not doing enough on the field, and the team obviously recognizes that. I think the Cowboys' defense are a great streaming play this week against the Giants and an offensive line that can't stop anyone. I think Kirk Cousins is an interesting play this week against the Titans' defense that's similarly troubled. I think Drew Brees is a huge risk because the Lions' defense has looked terrific, and the Lions are at home. So I'd be very concerned about starting Drew Brees. I am admittedly starting him in one of my 2 leagues because there aren't many better options on the waiver wire, and I'm just going to suck it up and hope I get 2 touchdowns out of him. But I'm not happy about it. And finally, Jordan Cameron's for real. I think we talked about it a week or 2 ago. It was only a matter of time before he busted out as soon as he was healthy. He was too good last year, and a lot of people were either dropping Cameron or just perennially benching him. And I think people need to realize that a guy like Jordan Cameron is clearly a cut above, in my opinion, every other receiver on that Cleveland team. Better than Benjamin, better than Hawkins, better than Austin. And I think Brian Hoyer knows that. And I think Cameron is good for about 10 targets a game going forward, making him one of the most targeted tight ends in the league. You've got to pick up and start that guy.
Fantasy Football for Winners every Thursday right before they kick it off for the week. We do it right here with BJ Rudell, author of Fantasy Football for Winners. BJ, another great conversation. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll catch up next week and keep this train moving to the playoffs.
Sounds good, man. Good luck.
All right, you too, BJ Rudell, and of course you guys can tweet with them, not just live during the show, but right up until game time each weekend at BJ Rudell. Tweeted us at SportsFixCLE. We're going to take a break, come back, wrap things up, set the stage for tomorrow. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Sports Fix, baby.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Looking to upgrade your league trophy? Check out fantasyjocks.com for championship belts, rings, trophies, and more. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
Let's talk about the X's and O's of family entertainment. Every parent in Ohio knows the importance of being able to draw up an activity that'll get you out of the house for a couple of hours. But it needs to be affordable. It needs to be family-friendly. Above all, it needs to be fun. Now, let's talk about high school sports. Bang for your buck, school sports provide the perfect game plan for your family. You'll enjoy all of the drama and excitement competitive sports offer. You'll be supporting the future leaders of our community in a meaningful way. Best of all, you can take the entire family without breaking the bank. Heck, you won't even dent it. Now, enough chalk talk. Let's get out there and see what's playing at the high school in your community. School sports. Good for our kids, good for our community. This message presented by the Ohio High School Athletic Association and the Ohio Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
This is Josh Tomlin of the Cleveland Indians, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live, wrapping things up across the Sports Fix Radio Network. A little bit of Earth, Wind, and Fire in the background. Let's groove, baby. Yes, Charles, in the chat room. Indeed, you have identified the voice in that Fantasy Jocks promo that just ran. That is absolutely the $1 Million Man. The day he picked up the $1 Million Championship from the jewelry store in Connecticut back in 1987. Yes, indeed. Good job figuring that out. Welcome back to the show, you guys. J-Rock with you as we're wrapping it up, closing down. Matter of fact, I'm literally going to turn this bad boy off, and I've got a football game to go to. My son's playing today, this afternoon. You know, because what geniuses play high school football at 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. You know, that makes it really, really easy to attend. You know, I'm sure the crowd, the throng is just going to be swelling to support those kids today. I mean, it stinks. I mean, who likes to go, and I see this all the time with my son's team, who likes playing, I mean, football is hard enough. You play in front of like 13 people. Yeah, that gets you really jacked up to get hit in the mouth over and over again, man. I mean, come on, help these kids out a little bit, man. But it's not Friday Night Lights. It's Thursday afternoon thunderstorms here at John Marshall High School. So getting ready to go do that, wrapping things up for the day, looking ahead to tomorrow. Well, I'll look ahead to tomorrow in a minute. A couple of things I wanted to get to on the way out the door today. College hoops are indeed in the air. I tweeted earlier, reposted the interview from last week with Coach Gary Waters, head coach of the Vikings men's basketball team. Horizon League and the Big Ten had some media days in the last 48 hours. Horizon League Media Day. Green Bay, the Phoenix, are picked to defend their Horizon League championship, but the Vikings in the preseason poll, second, according to the media that voted in that. They did get 9 first-place votes as they bring back a league-best 118 combined starts from last season. We talked to Coach. I mean, there's some senior leadership on this team. Also, looking at some of the players that were picked on the preseason All-Horizon first team, you've got Trey Lewis and Kiefer Sykes, both voted on the first team there. As well, Coach Gary Waters picked to finish second in the Coach of the Year balloting. I mean, there's a lot of good vibes here around them. Of course, Green Bay, they also bring back 4 out of 5 starters from last year. 32 of the 41 ballots had them as the team to beat in the Horizon League. It's going to be a lot of fun this season. It's going to be a lot of. Coach brought that up. It's like, hey, we got better. So did everybody else too. Juwan Howard Jr. playing for Detroit made the Horizon League first team, along with Lewis and Sykes and Corey Petros and Alec Peters from Valpo there. And Anton Grady made the second team. Of course, the Cleveland Central Catholic grad. I love Anton Grady. He's the at least especially defensively, he's the heart and soul of that. There's a difference in that team when Anton's out there playing with them. And then Big Ten men's basketball media day as well. Wisconsin is the overwhelming unanimous favorite to win. Ohio State projected to finish second in the preseason